The warning sirens started screaming before anyone on medical station Kepler 7 could even process what was happening. Red lights flashed across every corridor, every room, every surface. The automated voice repeated the same message over and over: emergency docking protocol initiated. All personnel to safe zones immediately. Dr. Kate Morrison was in the middle of treating a minor burn injury on a visiting trader when the alarms hit. Her patient, a nervous creature from the outer rim, bolted from the examination table so fast it left scorch marks on the floor. Within seconds the entire medical wing emptied. Everyone ran. Everyone hid. Everyone knew what those particular alarms meant. The Draconis Empire had arrived. Kate moved to the observation window, her heart pounding against her ribs. Through the reinforced glass, she watched as massive warships tore through the fabric of space itself, appearing from hyperspace in a display of raw power that made her stomach drop. These weren't the sleek, elegant vessels of the Galactic Union. These were instruments of war. Dark metal. Sharp edges. Weapons that could crack planets in half. The Draconis Empire didn't make social calls. They didn't visit medical stations for checkups or friendly exchanges. When they showed up, they came to conquer. To destroy. To remind everyone why they were feared across 1,000 star systems. But this time felt different. The largest ship in the fleet, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed everything around it, extended a docking bridge to the station. No weapons fired. No threats were broadcast. Just that single silent connection. Kate pressed closer to the window, watching as the airlock cycled open. Queen Vress stepped through first. Kate had seen pictures before, of course. Everyone in the galaxy had seen the Draconis Queen. But pictures didn't do her justice. She stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in scales that shimmered like polished obsidian under the station's bright lights. Her armor looked like it was grown rather than forged, flowing across her body in patterns that seemed almost alive. Her eyes glowed with an inner fire that made Kate's breath catch in her throat. Behind the Queen came her guards, massive soldiers who moved with deadly precision. But it was what came after them that made every living being on the station freeze in pure terror. Suspended in a shimmering energy field, barely contained by the technology holding it, was a void dragon. Kate had heard stories about these creatures her entire life. Nightmares given flesh. Living weapons that could tear through starship hulls like paper. Their blood was so toxic it dissolved most known materials on contact. Their breath could snuff out stars. Entire civilizations had fallen to creatures like this. This one was called Kara and she was dying. Even from this distance, Kate could see the massive wounds covering the dragon's body. Burns that went deeper than flesh. Tears in her scales that leaked dark, smoking blood that made the containment field crackle and strain. The dragon's eyes were half closed, her breathing labored and painful to watch. The station's emergency council assembled in the main medical bay within minutes. Kate watched from the lower observation deck as the galaxy's best doctors and healers gathered. Representatives from dozens of species, each one a master of their craft. Each one looking absolutely terrified. Queen Vress didn't waste time with pleasantries or formal introductions. She stepped into the center of the council chamber, her voice cutting through the nervous whispers like a blade. My guardian is wounded. She threw herself in front of an assassination attempt meant for me. She saved my life. Now I need you to save hers. The head of the crystalline medical team stepped forward. His transparent body was refracting light in nervous patterns, colors shifting rapidly across his surface. Kate recognized the signs. He was absolutely terrified. Your Majesty, we understand your situation and we sympathize. But that creature's biology is extremely dangerous. Her blood dissolves titanium. Her breath is toxic to most known life forms. We simply cannot risk. Cannot. Queen Vress interrupted, her voice dropping to something cold and deadly. Or will not. The crystalline doctor took a step back. Your Majesty, please understand. 300 years ago, a medical team on Proxima Station attempted to treat a wounded void dragon. The entire team died within minutes. Just from being in proximity to the creature. We don't have the knowledge, the equipment, or frankly the courage to attempt what you're asking. One by one the other doctors refused. The hive mind healers from Andromeda, who could usually solve any medical problem by thinking together, announced that their collective consciousness had voted unanimously against attempting treatment. Too dangerous. Too risky. Too likely to result in catastrophic casualties. The biosculptors from Titan Prime, famous for being able to regrow entire limbs and organs, offered their condolences but explained that their techniques required physical contact with the patient. Contact with Kara would mean instant death. Each refusal made Queen Vressa's scales darken, shifting from obsidian to something closer to midnight. Kate could see the rage building behind those glowing eyes, but she could also see something else. Something that surprised her. Grief. Pure, desperate grief. That's not a monster down there, Kate whispered to herself. That's her family. Dr. James Park, standing next to Kate in the observation area, grabbed her arm. Don't even think about it. I can see that look on your face. That dragon killed an entire medical team just by breathing near them. You're a field medic, Kate. You patch up miners and traders. You're not equipped for this. Kate wasn't listening. She was watching the footage playing on the medical screens, pulled from the Queen's own security recordings. The assassination attempt had been brutal. Dozens of attackers, advanced weapons, a coordinated strike meant to end the Queen's life. And Kara, throwing herself into the line of fire without hesitation. Taking blast after blast meant for the being she protected. Saving her Queen's life at the cost of her own. That wasn't the behavior of a mindless monster. That was love. That was sacrifice. That was loyalty stronger than fear of death. Queen Vressa's voice echoed through the station's communication system, transmitted to every corner, every room, every being who called this place home. I will give anything to whoever can save her. Wealth beyond measure. Technology. Territory. Name your price, and if it's within my power, it's yours. Silence answered her. Complete, total silence. Kate felt her colleagues trying to pull her away from the window, away from the observation deck, away from what she was about to do. Kate, don't. You'll die. You're just one person. You can't do what entire medical teams couldn't accomplish. She pulled free gently, her decision already made. Then at least I'll die trying. That's more than anyone else here is willing to do. Kate's legs felt like jelly as she walked toward the main docking area where Queen Vress stood waiting. Every step echoed in the now empty corridor. Everyone else had cleared out, hiding behind blast doors and reinforced walls. She was alone. Completely, utterly alone. The moment she came within 50 feet of the Queen, everything changed. The air itself seemed to vibrate with danger. Energy weapons powered up with a sound like 1,000 angry hornets. Kate looked up and saw at least a dozen targeting lasers painting red dots across her chest, her head, her body. The Draconis guards had locked onto her. One wrong move, one twitch they didn't like, and she'd be nothing but scattered atoms. Kate's hands went up slowly, palms out, showing she carried no weapons. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might burst right through her ribs. She'd never been this scared in her entire life. Not during the colony riots on Mars. Not during her first emergency surgery. Not even when her transport ship had nearly crashed during a meteor storm. This was different. This was facing down creatures who could end her existence before she even knew what happened. Wait. Queen Vressa's voice cut through the tension like a knife. She raised one clawed hand and instantly every weapon powered down. The guards stepped back, creating a small circle of space around Kate. The Queen moved closer, her massive form towering over Kate's 5'6" frame. This close, Kate could see details that cameras never captured. The way each scale had tiny patterns etched into it, like someone had carved art into metal. The way the Queen's eyes weren't just glowing, but actually contained small flames dancing inside them. The sheer presence of a being who'd ruled an empire for 3 centuries. Queen Vress tilted her head, studying Kate with an intensity that made her feel like every thought, every secret, every fear was being laid bare. You wish to volunteer? The Queen's voice carried disbelief. Almost mockery. Kate's mouth was dry. She swallowed hard, trying to find her voice. Yes, Your Majesty. I want to try to save Kara. The words came out steadier than she felt, which was something of a miracle. The Queen's laugh was harsh and bitter, echoing off the metal walls. The galaxy's greatest surgeons just refused me. Doctors who've been practicing medicine for centuries. Healers who can regrow organs and cure diseases that would wipe out entire planets. And you, she gestured at Kate with one clawed finger, a human field medic from a species that barely figured out faster than light travel 50 years ago, you think you can succeed where they failed? It was a fair question. A logical question. Kate had asked herself the same thing during her walk down here. She didn't have fancy equipment. She wasn't a genius surgeon with decades of experience. She'd spent most of her career treating broken bones, burns, and the occasional case of space sickness on mining colonies. What could she possibly offer that the galaxy's best couldn't? Respect, Kate said simply. The word hung in the air between them. I'll treat Kara like a patient, not a monster. I'll talk to her like a person, not a weapon. And I'll try, really try, when no one else will. Maybe that's not much, but it's something. Isn't that worth something? The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Kate watched Queen Vressa's face, trying to read an expression on features so alien to her own. The Queen's scales shifted colors again, darker then lighter, like emotions playing across her skin. The guards stood frozen, waiting for orders. Somewhere in the distance, Kate could hear the hum of the station's life support systems and the faint crackle of Kara's containment field. Finally, Queen Vress nodded. It was slow, deliberate. You may try. Then her voice dropped, became deadly serious. But understand this, human. If you fail because you're a coward, if you give up, if you run away when things get difficult, I will reduce your planet to ash. Earth will burn for wasting my time and my hope. Kate's blood ran cold, but the Queen wasn't finished. However, and here Vressa's voice softened, became almost gentle. If you fail because the task truly is impossible, if you give everything you have and it still isn't enough. The Queen paused, and Kate saw grief flicker across those burning eyes. Then we will mourn together. As two beings who loved the same soul and couldn't save her. Kate nodded. Her throat was tight. That's fair. Those are fair terms. What happened next sent shockwaves through the entire station. Queen Vress turned to the council chamber, where all the doctors and administrators were watching through reinforced windows, and announced that the human would be given full access to Kara. The council exploded. Voices shouted over communication systems. Emergency messages started flying through space toward Earth's government. Officials demanded that Kate be recalled immediately, that Earth intervene, that someone stop this madness before it became an intergalactic incident. Kate ignored all of it. She was already moving toward the medical prep area, pulling up scanner data, requisitioning equipment. Dr. James Park caught up with her, his face pale. Kate, Earth Command is going to order you to stand down. You know that, right? Probably, Kate replied, not looking up from the medical terminal she was working on. You could lose your license. You could start a war. You could die. Yeah, I know. She pulled up another screen showing Kara's containment field readings. But I'm going to try anyway. The station's AI chimed in, its synthetic voice apologetic. Dr. Morrison, I must inform you that there is zero medical data available on Void Dragon physiology. Every previous examination team died before they could file reports. You have no baseline to work from. No reference materials. No protocols. Kate stopped what she was doing and looked through the observation window at Kara. The dragon was curled in obvious pain, her massive body trembling with each labored breath. Even from here, Kate could see the wounds leaking that dark, smoking blood that made the containment field spark and crackle. Then I'll ask her myself, Kate said quietly. Dr. Park stared at her. Ask her? Kate, it's a dragon. It doesn't speak. It can't communicate. Kate corrected. Kara is a she, not an it. And we won't know if she can communicate until I try. Her colleagues thought she'd completely lost her mind. Maybe she had. But Kate grabbed a communication headset and walked up to the containment field's control panel. Through the shimmering energy barrier, she could see Kara more clearly now. Up close, the dragon was even more massive than she'd realized. One of her claws was bigger than Kate's entire body. Kate took a deep breath and pressed the communication button. Kara? My name is Kate. I know you're in pain. I know you're scared. I'm going to try to help you, but I can't do it alone. I need you to help me understand what's hurting. Can you do that? For a long moment, nothing happened. The dragon's enormous eye remained closed. Kate's colleagues behind her whispered that this was pointless, that she was wasting time, that the dragon couldn't possibly understand. Then Kara's eye opened. It was huge, easily 3 feet across, with a vertical pupil that contracted as it focused on Kate's tiny form. The eye was a deep amber color, like honey lit from within, and it stared at Kate with an intelligence that took her breath away. Slowly, deliberately, Kara moved. Her massive tail, as thick as a tree trunk, lifted from the floor of the containment field and pointed directly at the medical scanner displays showing her vital signs. The observation deck went completely silent. Then someone gasped. Another person swore quietly. Dr. Park's mouth fell open. The deadliest creature in the galaxy was cooperating. She understood. She was trying to help. Kate felt tears prick her eyes, but she smiled. Good girl, Kara. We're going to figure this out together. The first 24 hours were the hardest. Kate barely slept, surviving on coffee and determination. She'd set up a workstation right outside Kara's containment field, close enough to see every detail but far enough to be safe if something went wrong. The dragon watched her constantly with those massive amber eyes, tracking her every movement. Kate started simple. Before running any scan, she'd walk up to the containment barrier and explain exactly what she was going to do. Okay, Kara, I'm going to scan your left wing now. It's going to feel like a slight tingling sensation, but it won't hurt. I promise. Then she'd wait, watching for any sign of understanding or distress. The first time Kara responded by shifting her wing to give better access to the injured area, Kate nearly cried with relief. This was working. They were actually communicating. By the second day, they developed a system. Kate would show Kara the medical images on the display screens, pointing to different areas. Does this hurt? One tap of the tail meant yes. 2 taps meant no. It was crude, basic, but it worked. For the first time in recorded history, someone was having a conversation with a void dragon. The other doctors couldn't believe what they were seeing. They crowded around the observation windows, watching this impossible interaction. Dr. James Park stood next to Kate's station, shaking his head in amazement. This is impossible. That thing should have killed you by now. Every instinct it has should be telling it to destroy anything that gets close. Kate didn't even look up from her console where she was analyzing the latest scan results. That thing has a name. It's Kara. And she's being remarkably patient with us, considering how much pain she must be in. But how are you doing this? What's your secret? Kate finally glanced at him, exhaustion clear on her face. There's no secret, James. I'm just treating her like I'd treat any patient. With respect. With honesty. With care. She turned back to the screens. Everyone else sees a monster. I see someone who's hurting and scared. Queen Vress hadn't left the medical bay once since Kate started working. The Queen stood like a statue near the containment field, watching everything. She didn't eat, didn't sleep, just stood vigil over her dying guardian. Kate could see the exhaustion in the way the Queen's scales had dulled, losing some of their shine. The grief was eating her alive from the inside. On the second night, during a brief pause while the scanners recharged, Queen Vress finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, almost vulnerable. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You don't know Kara. Your own species just joined the Union last year. You have no loyalty to us. No obligation. So why risk your life for a creature everyone else fears? Kate looked through the barrier at Kara, who was resting but still watching her with one half-open eye. Because I saw the footage of the assassination attempt. I saw Kara throw herself in front of those weapons to protect you. She didn't hesitate. Didn't think about her own survival. She just knew you were in danger and she chose to save you. Kate turned to face the Queen. That kind of love, that kind of loyalty, it deserves respect. It deserves every effort to be saved. For a moment, Queen Vress's fierce expression cracked, and Kate saw the raw grief underneath. She's been with me for 200 years. She's not just my guardian. She's my oldest friend. I know, Kate said softly. And we're going to save her. By the third day, Kate had run every scan possible. She'd mapped Kara's entire biology, created the first-ever medical database on void dragon physiology, and analyzed the wounds from every angle. What she found made her blood run cold. She called Queen Vress over to the analysis station, pulling up the microscopic images. I know what's killing her. And it's worse than I thought. Kate pointed to the screen where tiny machines, thousands of them, were visible in Kara's blood. These are adaptive nanites. Weaponized technology. They're not just infection, they're assassination tools. The Queen leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. Explain. Whoever attacked you used weapons specifically designed to kill Draconis biology. These nanites are programmed to target your species' cellular structure. But here's the really nasty part. Kate pulled up another image. They're designed to detect any external medical intervention. The moment anyone tries to treat the wounds surgically or introduce medicine, the nanites accelerate their destruction. They multiply faster, spread quicker, kill more efficiently. A trap, Queen Vress hissed. They wanted to ensure that even if Kara survived the initial attack, she would die slowly and no one could save her. Kate nodded grimly. This wasn't a random assassination attempt. Someone planned this very carefully. Someone with advanced technology and detailed knowledge of Draconis biology. The Queen's scales darkened to almost black, rippling with barely controlled rage. The Union Council. They've feared our Empire's military strength for decades. With me dead and the last void dragon gone, they could force our Empire to submit to their authority. Kate's stomach twisted into knots. The Union Council. The same galactic government that Earth had just joined 6 months ago, eager to be part of the larger galaxy community. Earth had celebrated joining the Union, seeing it as humanity's great leap forward into cosmic civilization. And now Kate was learning that same government had tried to commit political murder. A priority message flashed on Kate's personal communicator. She recognized the encryption code immediately, direct from Earth Command, the highest level of authority. Her hands shook slightly as she opened it. Dr. Catherine Morrison, you are hereby ordered to cease all medical intervention with the Draconis patient immediately. This situation has become a political matter far beyond your authority or expertise. Return to Earth within 24 hours for debriefing. Failure to comply will result in court-martial and revocation of your medical license. This is a direct order. Kate stared at the message for a long moment. Around her, the medical bay hummed with equipment. Through the barrier, she could see Kara watching her with those intelligent eyes, trusting her. Beside her, Queen Vress waited to hear what Earth had said. Kate looked at the message again. Then at Kara. Then at the Queen's grief-stricken face. She thought about all the fancy doctors who'd refused to even try. She thought about the nanites designed to make sure no one could save this magnificent creature. She thought about doing what was easy versus doing what was right. She deleted the message. I'm going to need samples of Kara's blood, Kate said calmly, turning back to her console and pulling up the next phase of her treatment plan. And someone should probably tell Earth Command that I'm not very good at following orders when those orders are wrong. Queen Vress stared at her, something like respect flickering in those burning eyes. They'll punish you for this. Kate smiled without humor. Probably. But I can live with that. I couldn't live with giving up on Kara just because some politicians are scared of making waves. She pulled up the equipment manifest. Now, let's figure out how to kill these nanites before they kill her. Kate stood in front of the genetic sequencer, staring at the treatment plan she'd developed. On paper it was brilliant. In reality it was completely insane. Dr. James Park had said as much when she'd first explained it to him. You want to do what? He'd asked, his voice climbing several octaves. The nanites will detect any external medicine or intervention, Kate explained, pulling up her research on the main display. They're programmed to recognize anything artificial that enters Kara's body. But they might not recognize her own immune system if we can boost it enough to fight back. And how exactly do you plan to boost a void dragon's immune system when we've never even studied one before? Kate took a breath. By using my own modified stem cells as a bridge. I'll teach Kara's body how to fight the nanites from the inside. Her biology will learn from mine. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Dr. Park exploded. That's suicide. To create that kind of biological compatibility, you'd have to expose yourself to her blood. Direct exposure. Kate, that blood dissolved a 6-inch steel plate in under 60 seconds. It'll kill you. Then I'd better work fast, Kate replied, already programming the genetic sequencer for the first round of modifications. What followed were the longest 4 days of Kate's life. The process was straightforward in theory but brutal in execution. She had to introduce tiny amounts of Kara's blood into her own system, building up tolerance bit by bit, teaching her immune system to recognize and adapt to the dragon's biology without killing her in the process. The first injection happened on day 1. Kate used the smallest possible dose, diluted heavily. It felt like liquid fire entering her veins. Within minutes, her temperature spiked to dangerous levels. Her vision blurred. Every nerve in her body screamed. The medical monitors went crazy, alarms blaring as her vital signs became erratic. Dr. Park and 2 other doctors rushed to stabilize her, pumping her full of medicine to keep her organs from shutting down. It took 3 hours before Kate could breathe normally again. Her hands shook so badly she couldn't hold a coffee cup. That's it, Dr. Park said firmly. This experiment is over. You nearly died. Kate shook her head, still pale and sweating. No. We increase the dosage tomorrow. My body is learning. The reaction will be less severe next time. She was wrong. The second injection was worse. This time Kate collapsed completely, seizing on the medical bay floor while her colleagues fought to keep her alive. Her heart stopped twice. They had to use the emergency defibrillator to bring her back. When she finally regained consciousness, she was so weak she couldn't even sit up on her own. Queen Vress stood over her hospital bed, those burning eyes filled with something Kate couldn't quite read. Why are you doing this? You're destroying yourself. Kate's voice was barely a whisper. Because it's the only way to save her. But why does that matter to you? You owe us nothing. Kate managed a weak smile. We call it compassion. It means choosing to care about someone even when it hurts. Even when it costs you everything. The Queen was quiet for a long moment. That will get you killed. Maybe, Kate admitted, her eyes already drifting closed with exhaustion. But living without compassion would kill something more important than my body. It would kill what makes us human. By the third day, Kate looked like death warmed over. Her skin had taken on a grayish tint. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. She'd lost weight because she couldn't keep food down. Her hands trembled constantly. But the treatments were working. The genetic sequencer showed that her cells were adapting, learning to coexist with Kara's biology. Each injection still hurt like nothing she'd ever experienced, but her body was building the bridge they needed. Earth Command wasn't happy. Messages poured in, each one more threatening than the last. They demanded she return immediately. They threatened her with court-martial. They warned her about the political consequences. The Union Council was preparing sanctions against Earth for her actions. Diplomatic channels were lighting up with angry communications. Kate's younger brother Tyler sent a personal message, his voice breaking with fear. "Kate, please. Come home. You're going to start a war. They're saying humanity might get expelled from the Union because of you. Is one dragon really worth all that?" Kate sat in her quarters, exhausted and sick, staring at her brother's worried face on the screen. She thought about giving up. About going home. About letting someone else deal with this mess. It would be so easy to just walk away. Then she thought about Kara's intelligent eyes watching her work. About the dragon's gentle tail taps, one for yes and two for no. About Queen Vress standing vigil for days without sleep, consumed by grief for her oldest friend. About the fact that if Kate gave up now, Kara would die, and it would be because Kate chose politics over life. She recorded a message back to Tyler. Just one sentence. "Then let's make sure it's worth it." On the 5th day, Kate's treatment was finally ready. The modified stem cells sat in a specialized injector, genetically programmed to teach Kara's immune system how to destroy the nanites. On paper it was perfect. In reality there was one massive problem. The treatment had to be injected directly into Kara's heart chamber. And to do that, Kate would have to enter the containment field. Dr. Park pulled up the environmental readings from inside the field. The atmosphere in there is toxic to humans. The temperature fluctuates wildly. The dragon's psychic emissions alone could rupture blood vessels in your brain. And that's not even counting her automatic defensive mechanisms. Things that activate unconsciously when she senses a threat. "I know," Kate said quietly, suiting up in the most advanced protective gear the station had. "The suit will buy you maybe 3 minutes before total failure. Maybe. Then 3 minutes is what I have to work with." Queen Vress stepped forward, her massive form blocking Kate's path to the containment field controls. "Is 3 minutes enough time?" Kate met her eyes. "It has to be." The Queen nodded slowly. "I'll tell Kara you're coming. I'll tell her to trust you." Her voice dropped. "If you die in there, I will honor your sacrifice. Earth will have the Draconis Empire as an eternal ally. Your species will be protected." "I appreciate that," Kate said, sealing her helmet. "But I'm not planning on dying today. I've got too much work to do after this." The containment field began to lower. Kate took one last deep breath of clean air. Then she stepped forward into the toxic hell that surrounded the dying dragon, carrying the only hope either of them had left. The moment Kate stepped through the containment barrier, she knew she'd made a terrible mistake. The atmosphere inside hit her like walking into a wall of acid. Her suit's environmental system screamed warnings in her ear, red lights flashing across her helmet display. Temperature critical. Oxygen filtration failing. Hull integrity compromised. All within the first 5 seconds. Through the thick, toxic haze that filled the containment field, Kate could barely see Kara's massive form. The dragon was moving, thrashing in agony, her body convulsing with pain. Worse, Kate could feel something pressing against her mind, a psychic pressure that felt like invisible hands squeezing her skull. Her nose started bleeding. Her vision blurred at the edges. "Kara!" Kate shouted, but her voice came out distorted through the communication system that was already starting to fail. "It's Kate. I'm here to help." She took another step forward and her boot caught on something. She stumbled, nearly dropping the precious injector containing the treatment. Her suit's left arm began smoking where the toxic atmosphere was eating through the protective material. The timer in her helmet showed she'd been inside for 20 seconds. The suit was rated for 3 minutes maximum. At this rate, she'd be lucky to last 90 seconds. Kara's enormous eye suddenly snapped open. The amber pupil, as tall as Kate herself, focused on the tiny figure struggling through the deadly environment. Kate's heart nearly stopped. For one horrible, endless moment she thought she'd gotten it all wrong. The dragon looked confused, disoriented, like she didn't recognize Kate at all. Like she was seeing just another threat to destroy. Then something incredible happened. Despite the agony that had to be consuming her, despite barely being conscious moments ago, Kara moved. Her massive wing, each scale the size of a dinner plate, shifted with deliberate care. She positioned it around Kate, creating a protective pocket. Immediately, Kate felt the pressure ease. The toxic air became breathable. The psychic assault on her mind softened to a gentle presence instead of a crushing force. Kara was protecting her. Even while dying, even while in more pain than Kate could imagine, the dragon was using her last strength to keep Kate safe. "Good girl," Kate whispered, tears streaming down her face and mixing with the blood from her nose. "You're such a good girl. Just hold on a little longer. Please." She pushed forward, now able to move more easily within the protective bubble Kara had created. The dragon's chest rose and fell with labored breaths, each one rattling with pain. Kate could see Kara's heart area. The scales there were thinner, almost translucent, glowing with each massive heartbeat. The dragon's heart was enormous, pumping blood through a body the size of a small building. Kate's hands were shaking badly as she positioned the injector against Kara's chest, right over the heart chamber. She could feel the vibrations of that massive heart through her gloves, could hear it even through her damaged helmet. This was it. One chance. One shot. If the treatment didn't work, both she and Kara would die in this containment field. "I'm sorry this is going to hurt," Kate said softly. Then she pressed the trigger. The modified stem cells shot through the injection system, piercing through Kara's scales and flooding directly into her heart chamber. For a single, frozen moment, nothing happened. Kate held her breath, praying to anyone who might be listening. Then Kara screamed. The sound was like nothing Kate had ever heard. It shook the entire medical station. Metal groaned. Glass cracked. People in the observation deck fell to their knees, hands pressed against their ears. The dragon's whole body convulsed violently, every muscle seizing at once. Kate's suit chose that exact moment to fail completely. The protective field collapsed, exposing her to the full toxic environment. She couldn't breathe. Her skin felt like it was burning. She collapsed onto the floor of the containment field, unable to move, unable to think, unable to do anything except hope that she'd done enough. Her last conscious sensation was Kara's wing curling even tighter around her, the dragon somehow still protecting her even while the treatment tore through her own system. Then everything went black. Kate woke up slowly, painfully, feeling like she'd been run over by a cargo transport. Every muscle ached. Her head pounded. Her throat felt like sandpaper. She tried to open her eyes, but the light was too bright, too painful. "Easy," said a familiar voice. "Dr. James Park. Take it slow. You've been out for 3 days." 3 days? Kate forced her eyes open, squinting against the medical bay's lights. James was sitting beside her bed and he looked terrible, exhausted, unshaven, with dark circles under his eyes. But he was grinning like an idiot. "Kara?" Kate's voice came out as a croak. James's grin got even wider. "See for yourself." He helped Kate sit up carefully, turning her so she could see through the observation window. What she saw made her heart leap. Kara was standing. Not lying down in agony, not curled up in pain, but standing tall and strong. The wounds that had been leaking toxic blood were visibly healing, new scales growing over the damaged areas. The dragon's eyes were clear and bright, fixed on Kate with an intensity that was almost overwhelming. The door to Kate's recovery room opened and Queen Vress entered. The Draconis Queen moved with fluid grace, her scales now shimmering brilliantly instead of dull with grief. She approached Kate's bed and did something Kate had never seen before. The Queen touched her clawed hand to her chest in what was clearly a formal salute. "Dr. Kate Morrison," the Queen said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of authority, "you have accomplished what the entire galaxy declared impossible. You saved the last Void Dragon through nothing but courage, intelligence, and compassion." Kate tried to shrug, though it hurt. "I just did my job." "No," Queen Vress said firmly. "You did far more than your job. You risked everything. You ignored orders from your own government. You poisoned yourself. You walked into certain death. All to save a life that everyone else had already written off as lost." The Queen paused and her expression softened. "The Draconis Empire is withdrawing from the Galactic Union effective immediately. We are forging a new alliance with humanity." Kate's fuzzy brain took a moment to process that. When it finally did, her eyes went wide. "Your Majesty, wait. I'm just a doctor. I can't make political decisions for Earth. I don't have that authority." "You already made the decision," Queen Vress replied. "You showed us what humanity values. What your species is capable of.